Good morning. I didn't know what time of day it was then. Yeah, little update from my bed. Well, because I haven't hung my flag back up on my bookcase, actually, as it happens. Otherwise I would be sat downstairs in campaign corner. I'm not stuck in my sick bed. Cough's eased up. Little Dobby's alright. But anyway, I thought I'd do a little live feed. Been very despondent, really, with all our members being... Not all our members, it's an exaggeration, there's thousands of us, but people are just getting busted and we're not able to do anything about it. We've got a lovely lady in Ireland. Was using her own cannabis for her eyesight glaucoma, and now she's been prosecuted for cultivation with intent to supply, because she can't afford a prescription, so she's growing her own cannabis. It just makes me sick. Another elderly member of our community, he's got terminal kidney disease. He's been using his own homegrown cannabis, making his own glycerine tinctures, and he's actually turned his condition around. He's really battling his terminal kidney condition. I don't remember the full name of it. But then some meddlesome neighbour grassed him up. He got busted just a couple of nights ago and had his plants taken. So now he's lost his herbal health remedy. He's lost his medicine, as people call it. It's food at the end of the day. It's food for your endocannabinoid system, but that's a different discussion. But now he's got nothing. So now his kidney failure is going to really kick arse out of him. We might even lose Uncle Tony because they've taken his plants off him. And it just drives me mad, what can we do? What can we do? I don't mean we should be giving him plants. I think he should start growing straight away, personally. He's got a medical need that hasn't gone away just because they've stolen his plants. So if I was in his shoes, I'd be popping some seeds straight back in and carrying on, because his life depends on it. If he doesn't, what's he going to do? Use street cannabis that he doesn't know if it's organic or anything, or go back to pharmaceutical drugs that were killing him off in the first place? What choice does he have, really, apart from start growing some more cannabis? So yeah, it's really bothering him. We had another friend of ours in the community in court yesterday, a tiny possession charge. We're talking about a few grams, and they wanted to fine him, and he quite rightly, refused the fine. And this is what he's talking about. Colin Craig, I'm referring to. He won't mind me talking about this. In fact, I should have asked him to get an interview with me. He's managing his Crohn's with cannabis, has been doing so successfully for years. It's all in his medical records, and the police keep busting him and doing him for possession. Well, he's a guaranteed hit. He's always going to have some cannabis on him because he can't live without it, because his Crohn's cripples him if he does. So he's quite rightly refusing the fine, saying, no, I'm not going to pay your fine. Take him to court, tell him a story. And he managed to he was admonished, which is a new word for me. Heard it before but didn't know its meaning. You have punished for breaking the law, and then you can be admonished for breaking the law, whereby they make a record in your notes, or a legal record, that you've broken the law, but they haven't punished you for breaking the law. So no fine, no court fees, no victim surcharge, because he is the victim after all. He had his confiscation of his personal cannabis and was left in pain, so he's the victim. But the idea is every time you accept cannabis caution, you're just adding to the system, really, making it easier for them by refusing the caution and saying, no, I'm not accepting your caution, I'm not a criminal. It's not a Schedule 1 drug, you've got no evidence, it's not harmful, it's beneficial to my health. Your acts are based on lies and corporate greed and dodgy politicians. I refuse to be governed by your act that's based on lies. So I won't accept your caution, and I'll challenge your charges and go to court, please. And if everyone did this rather than just taking the pink slip and paying the £150 fine, they'd have a lot of a hassle processing that. And also, if ever anyone's detained, if you're walking along the street or anywhere and you get stopped with cannabis, well, you're on the way to hand that into the police station, aren't you, because you've just found it. So the best thing you can do if you find cannabis is to go and hand it into the authorities. It's not a crime to possess it whilst you're doing that. So I'm just so glad to see you, officer. I was just heading my way to see you to hand this cannabis in I've just found. That's another way. Just fucking bounce it straight back to him. It's not mine. Don't even acknowledge that. I found it and I'm on my way to hand it in. Refuse everything because it's no crime. It's no crime. Anyway, I'm waffling. I really wish WTU had thousands of pounds so we could actually be paying a solicitor to represent people when we're getting bust. Unfortunately, we haven't. We managed to raise less than £9,000 as a community before we paused the legal fundraiser, and that less than £9,000 was raised specifically to pay a barrister to review an evidence bundle that my body has been too broken to assemble, basically. While I've been invited to go and talk at the NEC and Product Earth and Know Your Roots, all these places I've been asked to go and talk and share or whatever, it breaks me doing it every single time, and then it takes me 10 days, 2 weeks, or I'm only literally just recovering now from Know Your Roots. So for me, the campaigning's been killing me. So now I'm finally starting to feel, I won't say recovered and normal, because normal and recovered is actually broken and disabled, but I feel less severely broken and disabled to what I was doing. So I've been offered some space in an office by some good friends of ours in the group, and I intend to try and get there as soon as possible in the next few weeks if I can, with some volunteers to do the button bashing, because even just using a laptop, printing, assembling, all those simple tiny movements are just too much for my body, because it's like my muscles are made of barbed wire, is the easiest way to describe it. So unfortunately we haven't got loads of money, so that the people, I've even got people watching now that I know are facing prosecutions or processing. I really wish we had the resources to be able to get solicitors instructed specifically on our behalves, but we can't, unfortunately. I have been helping people write letters and documents that they've been submitting to courts, and that's been helping their circumstances. So we're in the process now of generalising those so that other people, this is obviously just for medical purposes, if you're using cannabis for medical purposes at the moment, but we're also thinking of writing one for, your right to a private life and there being no harm occurring, so there's no crime occurring, therefore they've got no right to lawfully enter your property if no one is being harmed. So we're trying to, when I say we, it's me and anyone else that brings these ideas to me, trying to put some documents together, so we could have it in your house. The police knock on your door, you can just present the document before them and don't even open your mouth. Not saying it'll do anything, no way it'll help it if it'll work at all, but it's just something we can just try and start having a shield to defend ourselves, whether it's walking down the street, in our car, in our homes, wherever we're in our private space, causing no harm to others. If the police are molesting us and harassing us because we happen to belong to the cannabis community, some sort of pull card that will just say it all. One can be, I'm a conscientious objector to the war on drugs. It's based on racism, fraud and political greed. There's so much going on here. The stress of it all is tearing my family to pieces. In a nutshell, I've inadvertently made myself a prominent cannabis activist. Didn't intend to do that. All I ever wanted was a solicitor. Literally, I want a solicitor to build a case against prohibition, but everything else has happened in the process, and I suppose very much got a spotlight, it feels like, in some ways. It's quite worrying times, although our local newspapers, I've got this magazine here, I don't know if you'll be able to read it actually. It's the first edition. It's called the Honeypot. It's actually from New York. And at Product Earth I bumped into a chap called James Hirsch, happens to be a bit of a journalist. And quite ironically, Phil Monk gets written about in New York. Phil Monk and WTU there. I will try and scan it and give you all a copy after. We've been kind of ignored in this country by our own media because we're telling a politically inconvenient truth. But over in New York, we're getting written about. It really is quite bizarre. Some other news as well that I can't really explain very much myself at this point. The solicitor that was working with us, he was liaising between us and offering me whatever advice he could, pro bono really. No longer with that company. I don't know any details. I don't know the ins and outs, but basically the solicitor that we had, we no longer have. It's not to say we haven't got a solicitor. It's just not the person that I've built a relationship with. I'd even say a friendship to some extent, actually, because you get to know people. So we'll see what happens there. The APPG and all that sort of stuff has now gone up the window because of the general election. So all the APPG is all disbanded, no longer exists until they perhaps reform when the next government is appointed. So any developing relationships there are postponed until I don't know when. which leaves things in a bit of limbo, really. Ultimately, though, we've still got a barrister on retainer for this job. So nothing's changed. Ultimately, all the rest was kind of distractions, I suppose. I still haven't been to hand myself into the local police, but I am going to initiate contact with them through letters, because that's the way I operate. I operate with a sword and walking sticks and electric wheelchairs. So I'm going to just email correspondence out in the first instance and see how it goes. I'm trying to think what else I've written, because I normally try and write and then speak it. Something that I haven't written. The merchandise, all the T-shirts and everything that we give away to members, nothing's ever sold. WTU is not a business. So all the merchandise, like, wristbands, I've just got a bit of a T-shirt under here. I haven't been able to send them out because I'm just too disabled, basically. It's the only way to describe it. But one of our trusted members, it's a member of the admin team, he's been with us from the very beginning. He will be taking that on for me, for us, for WTU. So all the T-shirts and stuff that are in my cupboard collecting dust, all the leaflets and flyers that we used to send out to people that we haven't been able to, we'll start be able to send that out again soon. We're about to set up a new email address so people can email to this specific address, put their request in, and between myself and this other trusted member, we can then organise to get everything sent out to people as they request and as what we've got available. What other developments? I can't think of any more at this point in time. General election, man, it's horrible, actually, because I'm in a unique position I've never ever been before in my life, in that I've attracted 5,600 like-minded people who all believe in cannabis, or the freedom to choose cannabis even if they don't use it themselves, into one space, WTU. But then outside of WTU, I'm seeing people politically now, because of the general election, it's getting very heated and political, and people drawing the lines in the sand, and if you're going to vote this, I'm going to do that, and if you vote that, or think this. I've even heard about red and white poppies, actually. I don't want to get into any of it, but what I will say is the political, we used to have the class system in the UK, upper class, middle class, lower class, upper lower middle class, all that sort of stuff, and they abolished the class system. And we basically apparently have no class system, but it's not quite true. We have a political class and a non-political class. And the reason I'll tell you for this and how I deduce this was actually whilst it was Nick Clegg in Parliament being interviewed by Russell Brand about drug use in Parliament, about how they've been finding cocaine evidence in Parliament. So it's like they can use drugs in Parliament, but the plebs outside, they can be prosecuted for using drugs. And it was interesting, Nick Clegg actually made reference to, but the political class. I don't remember the rest of his sentence because I'm linguistically trained, and I stuck on this. The political class? We don't have a class system in the UK. But we do. We have a political class system and the non-political class system, who don't even know there's a class system. So basically, the political class system, they can take the drugs that they choose and do whatever they please with impunity, which is why we have Boris Johnson, who has taken, maybe still does take cocaine, but he's still Prime Minister. But anyone else taking cocaine loses their job, their home, their reputation. This hypocrisy is astounding. I don't know how I got to that. Oh yeah, watching all my friends rip each other apart. It's bloody horrible to watch. And all they're doing is divide and conquering us all. And right before Christmas, we're going to have friends and families and social groups all falling out with each other 12 days before Christmas because of a general election, because mostly deceitful politicians that don't do anything they promise anyway are lying and fooling everyone all over again, like Brexit. It's just horrible to watch. Someone made reference to the old adage, don't discuss sport and politics. I can see why, because it just destroys friendships and family, and it divides and conquers the masses. Literally, divide and conquer the masses. And does it even make any difference? In one of my local towns, Tory MP won their election with more votes than were cast at the ballot. and is still in position because they had to take a high court action to get them out, and I don't even know if they did get them out. So even though they got in fraudulently, they still stay in position, and that's in one little village in the middle of Wiltshire. So how many other little villages around the country is this happening, where votes and MPs are getting in with more votes than are cast at the ballot for them? It's a very interesting discrepancy, and I got to say, I've got no faith in the UK voting system. Excuse me. In the meantime, going back to the important thing, proportional representation, that's all I'll say about our voting. We need to have proportional representation. Please stop being horrible to each other because of loaded deceitful politicians. It's not worth it. You're all still family and friends at the end of the day, and they'll go on making up their business at the end of it. I don't even know if they listen to us anyway. I'll carry on building the case. I hope when whatever government we have after Christmas, they're going to be finding the WTU file on their case. And on top of that, evidence bundle will be our declaration of incompatibility between the Human Rights Act and the Misuse of Drugs Act and the evidence to support it. That was the original plan, so it's time to get back on with that, not be distracted by anything else. Although I've just remembered I've been asked to write a third update for the CBD and Hemp magazine, news magazine, so still other things to do. One thing I want to say, if anyone's got what they think of as evidence, I know there's some members in this group who've got some really good insight into the private life aspect, the ACMD, or if you've got anything that you feel is evidence against prohibition, can you email it to me and we can try and incorporate it into the case in some way. philmonk@wtuhq.org. I think I've probably wombled. That's a good one. Rambled and waffled. Wombled. I'm just looking at comments. Okay, someone's saying that, saying I'm on the way. It's alright, Dobby! Shh. That saying you're on the way to hand drugs into the police officer won't work. You can still get charged for possession, someone's saying. I'm as best as I can be. Someone says here, I don't reveal names on this because I sometimes put them on YouTube as well. Being part of this group is making me feel less isolated. So thank you, Phil. Well, that's been the most wonderful byproduct of WTU that I never anticipated, is the community that's grown and developed around us, the way we all support each other, the way the donation systems work by giving stuff away and people donating. It's all beautiful how it's all worked. It's been a privilege and an honour to be part of what's created that. I don't do pride. It comes before the fall as one of the 7 deadly sins. Play the bastards at their own game and use the law against them to show it for the ass it is. That's a great one, that is. Challenge card. I'm just going through questions in case I'm missing anyone's questions. Everyone should not vote, bringing them down. That'd be interesting if no one voted at all. Who would be elected? Yeah, that would be dead interesting. Alright, I think that's everything I've got to update for now. I'm going to try and arrange in the next 2 weeks to get myself to this office space. I'll keep you updated. If I get more updates on the solicitor, I'll update. Anything I get, I'll update, basically. And keep in touch with anything that crops up. We'll do all we can to support you. Thanks, everyone. Keep well. Keep your spirits high.